Most Star Wars games that have come out within the recent years are an example of what is wrong with modern gaming. Between failed PC ports, pay-to-win systems, and an expensive edition of the game with content that is already locked behind it, I know that if we were to get a third installment of The Force Unleashed, it would be filled to the brim with microtransactions and online-only pay-to-win systems. I really enjoyed playing The Force Unleashed 1 and 2, and it's crazy because I have an odd one-off memory of me playing as Darth Vader in the opening part to Force Unleashed 1. I don't know where it came from, but the weirdest thing is that I had no idea that it was this game that I was remembering. After playing it again, I know why I remembered it for so long. In this video, I will be reviewing both 1 and 2 of The Force Unleashed. Strap into your Y-Wings because it's going to be a hell of a ride. Before we get into the actual review of the games, I wanted to take the time to kind of explain where I've been, what I've been doing, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. Obviously, I haven't been gone super long. It's not been like a month or anything, but it's been, I would say, a good 2 weeks now at this point, as of recording this. And throughout all of this process, I've been it's mostly just moving and working on stuff like that. I just haven't been fully focused on YouTube stuff. It's a hobby still, you know. But yeah, if you've ever moved before at any point of your life, you know that there's always something that pops up. Like, it's not just an easy, quick, clean thing where you just go from point A to point B. There's like several different things in between that are just very big inconveniences. As an example, not having the money for like a moving company or anything like that. So my dad and I just moved a ton of shit in a couple of days. It was very exhausting, but it's done now pretty much totally, like, to a degree. There's just, you know, a bunch of other things that you got to do with a house when you first move into it. There's a lot of stuff that you got to fix, a lot of stuff that you got to add. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a whole lot of garbage that I don't want to get super in depth with, but understand that as of when this video comes out, I will be sort of, you know, in a little bit of like full gear. And I also wanted to shout out my second channel, taking the time for that. That's where most of my videos go that aren't going to be commentary related videos. It'll mostly be me with my friends or just myself playing video games. Besides having a second channel, it's around that time where everyone is getting out of school, which is awesome. I hope that you guys include me in your weekly schedule of watching my videos. I will only say once per video, but subscribe if you haven't already. It helps my channel. It just boosts the numbers, tells YouTube, you know, put this video out there more for the algorithm and things like that. I do really appreciate it. But all right, enough of me talking about all this mumbo jumbo. Let's get into the rest of the video, lads and gents. What I'll be doing is putting this into sort of like 2 main sections, except you won't really exactly see that. There will be obviously the first section, which is the main section, is you know, The Force Unleashed 1, and then second section, you can take a guess at what it's going to be. But there will be little subsections for, you know, the chapters feature for YouTube stuff, so just keep that in mind. I'm also not super into Star Wars in the sense of like reading the books and most TV shows. I'm not a master at Star Wars, but I find Star Wars to be pretty interesting. So just keep that in mind for this entire review. I'm not a pro at Star Wars or something like that. But all right, let's get into it. Overall, my experience while playing this game is pretty much expected. This game is pretty old, being published in 2008. The port for this wasn't the greatest, and I didn't think I would actually have issues with the entire game. But imagine playing your favorite game and suddenly you think you're going deaf. This happened several times throughout my playtime with the whole thing. It must have been something with tabbing out of the game and going to different windows on my computer, and with the game being full screen, but it's still really annoying because you have to deal with it, and it just really takes you out the mood of playing or out of the, you know, the atmosphere. Music often won't play, some sound effects are just completely gone, and you're left hearing the stormtroopers you were killing. Certain boss fights can be a little buggy as well. Sometimes the boss will do the same move over and over and over, allowing you to land one shot at a time, and other bosses will let you smack them around and won't fight back. Enemies have health bars, and fighting basic grunts is a little annoying, seeing as how you don't just kill them in one hit. This isn't an issue in the next game, but it's very annoying in this one. Something that most people have never had an issue with is getting the game to actually stay on the screen that you want. I had to fiddle around with a lot of PC settings for this. Don't understand why it was such an issue. Obviously, it's a bit of an old game, but if you're going to port it over, make it make sense. I don't know, man. It's a little stupid. All right, now we have the story. I really enjoyed it to a degree. I felt an interest in every character that was in the game, whether they existed before the game or not. Sadly, this game isn't canon, and the other game is not canon as well, due to Disney not having purchased Lucasfilms and all of that can of worms. The game is pretty much considered an expanded universe, which it's just an alternate reality, other universe, multiverse. It's just not canon, so none of it really applies. It's just a fun one-off story. The concept of Star Starkiller is pretty interesting, and in this game, it's executed relatively well, in my opinion. Darth Vader coming across a youngling after killing his father, then forcing him to be his apprentice is awesome. The way that Darth Vader saves Starkiller by killing everyone who is about to gun him down was super cool. Throughout the game, we are shown that Starkiller isn't fully a Sith and allows himself to not just feel hatred all the time. We are then introduced to a few characters that are likable to start. Proxy, who is a prototype holodroid. They can turn into other characters. We see Proxy become Clone Wars Obi-Wan, which is a really nice cameo. It's something small. It isn't forced down your throat as the audience. It's not something that is just really like, oh, it's Obi-Wan. It's like, oh, what the fuck? That's Obi-Wan? And then it's like, oh, okay, it's just Proxy. Then we are shown Juno. She is a pilot that flies the Rogue Shadow, which is the ship that Starkiller uses. At first, she doesn't know what Starkiller's mission actually is, and once Proxy shows General Coda, she realizes that Starkiller is hunting Jedi. Starkiller is a little bit blind to what he is doing for Vader. He's like, I'm Batman. We bring Vader's enemies to justice. Now you do too, Juno. We find out that General Coda didn't want clone troopers because he felt that they weren't right for battle, and he had his own militia instead, which is just, you know, regular people. Which, it's a pretty neat idea, basically implies that he didn't have to deal with anything from Order 66, or whatever the fuck that was called. And I also believe that there were some clone troopers that didn't even have a chip in their head, so there was other Jedi that got to live through Order 66. Coda tries baiting who he believes to be Vader, and instead ends up having to fight Starkiller. During this fight, Coda ends up sensing the future for Starkiller, sensing only himself. Then Starkiller burns out Coda's eyes and forces him out of the ship. Oh, I forgot to mention that Vader sent Starkiller to kill and take Coda's lightsaber, so it doesn't really portray to anything. It's just that was an extra thing. Vader says, oh, my spies have found another Jedi, then blah blah blah, more I can sense the future sort of shit. Starkiller has to go to the temple, in quotations, and because I pretty much flew through this, and by dashing past everything that you have to fight, it's kind of forgettable. I don't know, certain parts of this game are just, it's a blip. You fight this guy, you kill him, boom. Vader has another test though. Master Shaak Ti is one of the last living members of the Jedi Council. I never recall seeing this character in any of the movies, so I'll just agree with this and move on, I guess. Whatever planet this is, it fucking sucks. This planet blows hot swamp ass. You gotta fight big guys, magic guys, tentacle porn guys, all sorts of guys. I don't like any of them. Then after all of this hard work, Shaak Ti jumps into the pit and unalives herself. All of my effort went into this. Why? We cut to see Vader is hyping up Starkiller with getting him to help Vader with killing Emperor Palpatine. Starkiller visits Vader, then bam, lightsaber right through the chesticle. And Starkiller is treated, honestly, like a little bitch at this moment. You know, he's thrown around all over the ship, then he's thrown into fucking outer space. Then Vader saves Starkiller, being like, yo man, I killed you to make Palpatine think you were dead. Aren't I so edgy? And the entire time I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. If there was sort of, you know, a little bit of good writing here in this moment, Starkiller and Vader would have probably fought Palpatine, and Palpatine would have killed Starkiller or something like that. And on top of this, Palpatine can still sense Starkiller. Like, this doesn't make any sense. You would know that he's still alive, right? Because the whole thing is that Palpatine knew that Starkiller was there. I don't get it. After this, Starkiller has to break out of a base he was held in. He also gets Juno, who was captured in the same sort of facility. And at this point, Starkiller, Juno, and General Coda are considered fugitives. Oh yeah, cut to this moment a little later on. General Coda didn't die, but also says that he lost his way with the Force. This outfit is pretty dope, I'm not gonna lie. He looks pretty cool with the hair, you know, slicked back and, you know, all that sort of stuff. He's kind of like Kenshi. Starkiller travels back to his home without realizing. He then sees a Force ghost of his late father. And after that, he finds the, you know, the Rebels logo or whatever. I think it's like the logo or symbol for his home, but it's also the Rebels thing. I don't get it. On the same planet is Princess Leia. Starkiller rescues her, and later we rescue Senator Organa, but in between this time, it's clear that General Coda doesn't realize that Starkiller is the same guy that took his eyes, I believe. I think it's like sort of a thing of like kind of pretends. I don't fully remember, but in the next game, I think he says something of like, oh, I wanted to give him a chance, you know, to let him be his own man. I don't get it. I still don't get it. Later on, Juno finds out that Starkiller was planning on betraying everyone for Vader. It doesn't seem to really fit correctly in the story or with what is going on, but Proxy tries once again to kill Starkiller. He turns into Darth Maul and then is beaten. I'm kind of jumping between things because some of these moments are a little silly. There is a Star Destroyer fire, and Starkiller has to grab it and pull it into the planet he is on. I don't know what the planet was because I'm lazy. Then we see that Proxy no longer wants to kill Starkiller anymore. That's pretty cool. You never really see him again. At this point, looking back at everything, the story seems a little messy. Regardless of animation or graphics, the writing, the story, the way that certain characters are portrayed, it's just a little odd. All right, let's speedrun the rest of this. Starkiller tries tricking Darth Vader and actually working with the rebels, and we get this scene.
You agreed to stay away! I lied.
Proxy sacrifices himself to help Starkiller escape, and then with Juno, Starkiller gets into the Death Star, and you are then met with two choices. You can either be good or bad, the light or dark side of the Force. The light side allows you to fight Emperor Palpatine, let the other rebels escape, and Starkiller dies. Then for some reason, the Rebel Alliance is created on the planet that Starkiller is from, and they use that symbol that was already there. Doesn't really make sense. It's a little poetic, but also it's like, what the fuck? I don't get this. The dark side has you fight Darth Vader. Then instead of killing General Coda, like Palpatine demands, Starkiller tries to fight Palpatine and then has an entire ship just force pushed down onto him, and he just, is destroyed. And then Starkiller gets the Darth Vader treatment. Also, there, just a quick little snippet. There is DLC. It's pretty cool, pretty short, but the coolest things to happen is Starkiller learns about his past. Apparently, this can also be applied in the middle of the game. I don't really understand it. I don't really care. Then the dark side version of him goes and kills Obi-Wan, then kills Obi-Wan's Force Ghost. All of this was kind of badass. And then gets Luke Skywalker to become his own apprentice. Enough said. After everything, I do have to say, besides plot holes or writing screw-ups, this game is pretty alright. It's good for its time. I didn't know what to expect, but I did find it pretty fun to play. I would never replay this game again, but it was pretty alright. The story itself actually felt like it had some sort of stakes. I enjoyed all the characters, but I think something that slightly ruins games like this is that since it doesn't further the actual story of Star Wars, it's just pointless. Similar to the Flash movie, if any of you guys have ever seen it, the ending of the movie basically resets everything, and it's like, oh, okay, well, that was a fun movie, but there isn't really a reason to watch it. If you're wanting a fully length story or something like that, like how some DC Marvel movies are, it's just a fun time is really all it is. But all right, on to the second game. After having said everything about the first game, The Force Unleashed 2 looks graphically a little better and plays slightly better, but the story and most levels, the pacing, the writing, all of it it feels terrible. I didn't think it would be this bad, but after taking a second look from playing it all again, I was like, wow, this was ass. We find out that Darth Vader has actually been cloning Starkiller since his original death, basically implying that the light side was the actual ending canon to these games. And the test subject or current version that's being worked on of Starkiller experiences flashbacks to his original life. He sees Juno, and he realizes that he's going to be killed because he still has feelings and remembers his past life. Starkiller escapes the cloning facility and goes to find all the people who knew before. The only difference, gameplay-wise, is that now you fight with two sabers and have sort of an ultimate ability where you just pretty much win every fight guaranteed. And there are a couple boss fights, couple moments where you are gliding down or falling, having to destroy debris on the way down, stuff like that. It's pretty whatever. Starkiller goes to a planet that Yoda is on. He sees the future and what happened to Juno. We also see that Darth Vader hired Boba Fett to kill Starkiller. Then eventually, you get to the cloning facility that Starkiller was being held in. General Coda and Starkiller formed an attack on the place, and during this entire time, instead of Starkiller just helping General Coda like he pleads and begs and literally just asks simply for, he spends the entire game trying to look for Juno.
This isn't as easy as it looks, but we need your help. One Jedi can turn the tide of any war.
Only here for Juno, General.
Then at the end, Juno is killed, and I don't even think Juno actually got one line of dialogue. I don't really even remember it, and if she did, it's very small. Who knows? At this point, who knows? Then you are met with the choice of the light or dark side. If you choose the dark side, Starkiller is killed by another clone of himself. Darth Vader says that he has actually perfected the cloning process, and it's like, okay, what the fuck? And if you choose the light side, Starkiller let Darth Vader live. He resurrects Juno, and we see at the end a cliffhanger that Boba Fett is after them. This is the only interesting thing. Another interesting thing, well, more or less it's included with, the cliffhanger. Apparently the third game would have started with Boba Fett killing both Juno and Starkiller. That sounds pretty cool. Don't know what you would do with that though, because it would be really boring to just be like, hey, it's another clone, because just cloning over and over is a little boring and bland. This is just come after everything, after, looking through scripts, after having talked about everything and whatnot. These games are like, it's like a fun party game that you never, you don't play it every single day. It's not like Fortnite or something. It's like Gang Beasts. play that like with friends, and then you're like, oh yeah, looks like I'm done. Except for this game, you don't play with friends, you play by yourself when you have nothing else to do. And one of the worst things that I didn't even realize after I had looked through it is Steam doesn't even have trophies for these games. I don't even know if like achievements existed for the Xbox 360 for these games or something like that, but there's fucking nothing. There's literally nothing for you to do. The entire point is to just play. There's some challenges or things like that that you can do. I didn't even look at them because of how like I just wasn't interested. I was really hyped too. That's the thing that sucks about all of this, is I was really looking forward to playing because May the 4th game was on sale. I bought both of them. Both were like $5. I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. And then it just stunk. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully, I wish it didn't stink. But yeah, honestly, I don't even know what you could do to make these games better. I think it's just a game of its time, sort of. I know plenty of other really good games came out around that time. I think it's just a bit of like, they wanted a Star Wars game and that's just what happened. And Star Killer, the guy who plays Star Killer, stuff like that, it's just like, that's all cool. Love the voice actor, things like that. But the game itself, story-wise, things like that, it's whatever. You leave it at that. No, yeah, but that's gonna do it for this video. That's really all I have to say about it. This game is something. It's something to talk about, and it's gonna be, you know, obviously it's a one-off video. It's a commentary. That's what I'm doing. But yeah, hope you guys have a great day, night, week, month, whole rest of the year. It really doesn't matter when it is, but I hope it's great for you guys, though. See ya.